that? I don't get an attaboy.
That sounds like me.
Huh?
That sounds like me.
Sounds like you. Well, we look about alike too, Doug, for whatever that's worth. But the fact is, don't waste food. All right, where were we? So the point is, we take this as our paradigm, our template for gathering money for a New Testament church. When the church as a group is going to gather money, this is how we do it. And we're not taking up collections here or there. We're doing it by free will offering, and it goes into one place. That's the phrase, lay something aside and storing up. That's kind of broken up in English. The word there in Greek is thesaurizo, which means we get the word thesaurus from it. And we get the word, what's a thesaurus? Is it like a brontosaurus? A thesaurus is a collection of words. That's what Roget's thesaurus is. It says a collection of words. So that's the word, and it's the word treasury, comes into English as treasure or treasury. And that is also one of our questions. What about a church treasury? Well, this implies a church treasury. Some people say, oh, this means they all kept it at home, and then when Paul came, they all brought it to him. That's the opposite of what he says here. He says he doesn't want there to be any collections when he comes. He wants it to all be in one place, treasured up or stored up. The word treasure there means storing it. So somebody took this money and they put it into one place, physical place, and kept it until Christ came. And every first day of the week in the interim, they kept collecting more until he got there. Then they gave it to him or his assignments, and his assigned messengers, and they took it to Jerusalem. So this gives us authority. Now, if I'm going to be real specific about this verse gives the church authority to take up a collection on the first day of the week to meet future needs. The things that we know we're going to need in the future, we can take up a collection to meet those needs. And because that's what this was. This was not a need that day that they had to have. I've known of churches back in the old days, heard of other countries, where when they take up a collection on Sunday, they stand there and they say, who needs grocery, who needs food? And they give the money to the different members of the church who need something. And they give it all out, or give most of it out right there at the assembly. So they're taking up a collection right there. In the book of Acts chapter 4, when they had people there that were gathered, and they had come from all different places to be in Jerusalem on Pentecost. And then the church began, the Holy Spirit fell, and they began to meet together. Some of those people began to be in need because they were away from home. And then this famine hit shortly after that. And so they were selling property. That's the story at the end of Acts chapter 4 and on into early chapter 5. They were selling land and houses and bringing the money and laying it at the apostles' feet. And that's when Ananias and Sapphira saw what Barnabas had done. He had sold land and brought the whole amount to the apostles. And I think they probably saw him being praised for that. They sold their property and only brought part of it and kept the rest, and they didn't tell anybody, oh, yeah, here's part of it. They lied about it, in other words, so they would look good. They wanted to look good without being good. Now, that's the background of that story. They were bringing it right then. Why were they doing it then? Well, they weren't doing it for some future need. I think they were doing it for an immediate need. And it doesn't tell you there, in that case, that they took up a collection on the first day of the week to do that. This collection they did. So if we were in a situation here, in this church, where brethren in this church had an immediate need, we would take up a collection whenever it was needed to be taken up. At least I would be fine with that, because that's what happened in Acts chapter 4. Are we in that situation? No. Have we ever been in that situation here? Only once during the hurricanes in 2004, 2005, we had people that had an immediate need of some place to stay and some shelter. And I think, but what did we do? Well, we had money sitting in a treasury we had saved up from these first of the week contributions for that purpose. See, when a church is stable like this and in a relatively good time, we don't keep money in our treasury just so we can make interest or so we can have an investment. The money is there to be used over time, and when an immediate need comes up, then we need to do that. For example, I've learned the last 2 days of a need in Tampa by someone who's got 4.5 feet of water in their house and their 3 vehicles are all underwater. Well, he happened to be my nephew, but he's in need now. But we've got money stored up in our treasury. Should we send him some? Well, I haven't talked to Gary yet, but I think we should, probably. And here's the thing, that church there where he's at in churches, if he doesn't need it, I'm sure he can find somebody who does need it over there. Not because he's going to starve next week. He has a job, so, but he needs immediate assistance. He doesn't even have a vehicle to drive around to go to work. When your house has got 4 feet of water in it, all your possessions are underwater, don't know when the water's going to go down because they've closed off the dam down below them or the break, and it all flooded and flooded him out. Do you think the government's ever going to be accountable for that action? Not even remotely possible that they would ever be held accountable for doing that.
Right.
Yes.
In that case, we would probably desire to send that money to the elders of the local church.
Well, we could send somebody to them. That's right. Maybe there's more people that need it. I don't know. But I know him specifically that needs it.
Well, I think that's the example in the New Testament.
Well, there's two examples. I guess they did send it to the elders. They did send it to the elders of the church to be distributed. In the case of evangelism, they sent the money directly to the evangelist. In the case of evangelism. That's right. So, and that's a good point, Gary. So in trying to follow those examples that we have, it takes you down a certain road and you know that you're doing it the right way, but then there's all the what ifs on the outside of that people get upset about. What if? What about this? What about that?
I think if he were a millionaire, you shouldn't send the money. He should be needy. I mean, he should be suffering, not able to do it himself.
If what?
I think he needs, it says needy. So if he were rich and had a lot of money, I don't think that he
No, I haven't talked to him yet because he doesn't have good communication. But if he says I don't need anything, then that's fine.
Right.
If he says, yeah, I could use some cash right now to get going, because how do I even know he has a way to get any cash temporary? When we had these hurricane problems here, we had people, you don't even know what the needs are immediately. You just don't. People have been calling me from all over. You guys okay? Well, the truth is, we don't know for several days who needs what. You just don't know. And most of the people, after it's all said and done, a year later, I told them at the pulpit right here, in a year from now, most of you are going to be better off than you were before, because insurance is going to pay for replacing the stuff that you've got. You're going to end up being better off. And people were, but not right then. They weren't then because they didn't. And then there's other people who don't have anything. He doesn't think, for example, I heard from somebody else, he doesn't think insurance is going to pay for his vehicles at all. They're just sitting there in his carport in 4 feet of water. So, how's he getting around? I don't know how he's getting around. I'm sure there's plenty of people to help him. And he may say, I don't need anything. But I don't think that church, he goes to University Church in Tampa. He's a deacon there. I don't think the elders there, and I know the elders, I don't think that they know what people need yet. Maybe they don't need anything. I can tell you my experience in Churches of Christ in the last 20 years, and hurricanes and other disasters. More money is offered in these situations than can ever be used. When we had the hurricanes in 2004, 2005, we had people sent money here because we had members in need. I think we probably got sent $75,000, $80,000. Me and Gary kept records of who sent it and how much and who we gave it to, and I sent the reports out to these people. We had to turn money away, a lot of money. Turn it away. We don't need it. And when they had the problem in Fort Myers a couple years ago with Ian, I think it was, that flooded Fort Myers. My brother's a preacher and elder in Fort Myers Church, right where the hurricane came ashore. They turned away hundreds of thousands of dollars of offers and aid from Churches of Christ that were offered them by members and individuals. He said, I just had to turn it off. We couldn't possibly use it all. And that was after several months when that because several people there lost everything. And by the time it was all said and done, they had to turn all the money away because so I don't have any doubt that people are going to be taken care of in the United States with. And the money that was sent to the Bahamas from the United States was incredible amounts of money were sent, and goods were sent from the United States to the Bahamas. Is that Matthew? What storm was? I can't remember the name of the storm now. They're all blending together. Like my grandkids' names all blend together. Yes.
In Ohio, congregation that we attend.
They never have disasters in Ohio, by the way, just so you know.
Right.
Only tornadoes. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
We have the big tornado.
Yeah, they have actual tornadoes there, a mile across.
Yes.
Yeah, we have little baby tornadoes, but they still kill people. What are you saying here? Anyway,
I, for a time, ran what we called the benevolence ministry of our church. And the gist of it was, people in need could call the church and say, I need groceries, I need this, I need that. From time to time, people within the church, we had a pantry that they would stock with food and this and the other. And you say, come by the church building, we'll hand it out. These weren't necessarily Christians. It was just a way to reach.
now Philip, I mean, if we were to set up a ministry here to feed Port St. Lucie, what would that entail? Is it the duty of this church to feed all the needy of Port St. Lucie?
Only the needy saints.
If it is, every church in this area is failing because nobody is able to do it. Now here's what we would do. Here's what we've done about that very problem. You notice from time to time when someone will come in the door there and say, I'd like to talk to the pastor, when you guys always point to me, we have another pastor. But anyway, they come get the pastor, and so I guess that means I'm the boss. And you say, well, he's bossy. Well, you guys made me the boss. You want to keep sending people to me, then I'm going to be the boss. But anyway, but the point is, I'll go talk to them, and they say, well, I need car insurance money. I need money for car insurance, or I need gas, or I need some groceries. And I've never seen them before. Well, unless they've been here more than once, which some of them have. I will simply make an announcement to everybody here. We have someone in the back from the community that would like help. If anybody wants to help them, their name is whatever, go back and talk to them. Now that I think is a script, that's individuals helping a needy person. That's on you. Then you go back and you can evaluate whether you want to give them any money or not. And usually they walk away. They're upset about that a little bit because they want me to write them hand them some cash right there and they can be gone. But the truth is, they get more that way than they would the other way because people here are generous. And I don't have any example of the New Testament church handing out money to people that weren't Christians in Jerusalem or anywhere else. I have any indication of that at all. I have indication that they helped needy saints. So, and we've even had in the past, I used to have, I don't have it right now, I don't mind doing it. I had an envelope back there with cash in it that people had given me for this purpose in advance. They personally gave me some money. I think we put James in charge of this for a long time. James was the man. He had the money from individuals, and I would send them. The pastor would send them to the deacon, and James would give them some cash. I have them call me up all the time, Philip, on the phone. A few years ago, a woman got very, very mad at me on the phone because her mother needed a new couch. And I would not buy her mother a new couch. I said, we don't have any ministry for that. She got really, you're a church. You have to give me the money, she said. And I've had more than one of them tell me, we have to give them the money because we're a church. What do you think about that? See, that's the other end of the problem. You think that's right? You think the Bible says we have to give them her mother a new couch? Well, what do you think? It's not as cut and dry an issue as you think, is it? Not at all. So, I leave it up to the individuals who want to give help to people who are not Christians. And so you people give them money for gas or whatever. You can make your own decision about that. And
We would take collections like around Thanksgiving. We'd put together.
and that's all. That would be great. You know, if you want to do that this year, if you want to gather up money to make up something and get some of the other members here to make up things to take to needy people, that'd be great.
Individual, but not give it to the church.
It's not going to. It's not going to come through the treasury back out to that. It's going to come from you out. Now. That's what I'm trying to say. And you say, well, that's a technicality. Well, is it? Or is it really the only way I can say it's the church's duty to help people at Thanksgiving is if I can find in the scriptures an example or some reference to that idea. And it's not in there. So, at least as far as I can tell. So, therefore, we don't do it that way. If we want to give money and we want to be generous, so you can. Around Christmas time, I usually give out the names of a couple of charities that I know that I think are good things to donate to. I'll give you two right now. Heifer.org, Heifer, heifer.org. It's an international organization that sends live heifers and chickens and ducks and around the world, and the people have to take these and raise up more to give to their neighbors. Heifer.org. You can make donations to them. And then there's another one on up here. I think it's called UP or UAP, United Against Poverty. They run a store on 25th Street in Fort Pierce. It used to be called Harvest House. The guy there, a young man there that runs that, has got the right idea. I really appreciate the way they do everything there. If you want to make a donation to them, you want to donate your time or your money to, I think it's UP or UAP in Fort Pierce. I think that's a great charity. I've donated to them, and I think you should too.
The Up Store is on 25th.
On 25th, it used to be an old Winn-Dixie. Yes, the Up Store. That's what it's called. And there's a whole program there for people who are in need or poor, immigrants who need a way to figure out how to make it in society. They have training, they have everything there. Anyway, but the treasury is going to be reserved for preaching the gospel and for the needy saints. As far as I can tell from this, after Hurricane Andrew, my brother goes down to Homestead, Perrine area, and I told him, I said, I know there's a church there, and it's behind all these big trees. You'll see the driveway, and there's the church. Well, he gets there on Quail Roost Drive, and the building is visible for half a mile or more away because all the trees are gone. There's nothing there. And he said, and when I got to the building, I could see in the distance one or two houses, but every other place was leveled except that building. Wasn't damaged, strangely enough. So he assessed the roof damage there. It was damaged a little bit. He fixed the building up, and he started then putting water and food in there, and other people gave him food and water to put in there. Other Christians gave him stuff, and he began to make a place where people could come. It was designed to help the members of that church have a place where they could either sleep or get food and water. Well, then he begins to see people coming from a long way away, walking across the fields with their children and to get food and water. And here was his dilemma. Here's what he did. He said, people came to me, standing having walked, and it's 99 degrees outside with little children, and they asked me if I had water or food, and I said yes. And he said, I took them in the building and gave them some food and water, even though it was donated by churches. I gave it to him anyway, because he said, I'm not going to turn them away and say, well, you can't have that. I gave it to them. Now that was his interpretation in an emergency of what he would do. So he began to ask people just to send stuff to him or bring stuff to him that hadn't gone through a treasury, just so he could deal with those people. So he did. He gave whoever came whatever they needed. And that's a real disaster, though. Andrew was incredibly bad for that kind of damage. Now, Yes, we might do something slightly different in an absolute emergency. Well, during Hurricane Francis, we had some people that we'd checked with all the members, do you have a place to stay, do you need boarding up? And we sent our deacons out at that time. We had several deacons and groups, and they took care of everybody's shutters. But we had one or two new families living in dilapidated homes with no shutters. And where were they going to? We couldn't put them anywhere. We put them in the building. It was brand new. So they spent at least one hurricane, maybe two. We had pews at that time, old pews. They stacked them all in a circle here and got in the middle of them during the storm. Of course, this was a brand new building then, built to the latest hurricane codes. Now, do we normally house people? Is that the same thing that the church has a motel for people in this? No, that's not the same thing as the church running a homeless shelter or a shelter. That's an emergency situation. And you were allowed to take your ox out of the ditch on the Sabbath day. If the ox got in the ditch, you could take it out of the ditch. Does that mean you spend every Sabbath going around getting oxes out of the ditches for everybody? Does that mean you could plow your fields on the Sabbath day because you could get your ox out of a ditch in an emergency? No. And that's why Jesus said that the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So he said, in an emergency, there's a priority you can use. And so that's what we've done in a couple things like that. But those things don't become the justification then for having some kind of a... Yes?
I think you have to be very careful, especially nowadays, when you start giving out money and doing things to people whether it comes from the church or from us. We had a guy in Okeechobee. He came to church and asked for some money. And of course, they gave him something over a month. He was the first one there Sunday and the last one to leave, sat on the front row, had that songbook just singing and whatever. Then he missed a couple of Sundays. I was driving down the street in the patrol car and saw him coming out of the bar. So I just U-turned and went back and I said, "Hey, Clarence, where have you been?" He said, "Well," I said, "how come you're not in church?" And he recognized who I was. You know, we never saw him again.
All right. This does not apply to Christians that the church has helped from the treasury. This church has helped lots of people that were members of this church from the treasury over the years, sometimes with fairly large and long-term help. We've done that, which I don't want to go into that specifically, and usually it's kept fairly confidential, the amounts and all that stuff. But in 50 years of preaching, I can't think of one person that I've ever baptized because they came in the door and we gave them money and helped them. If there is one, I cannot recall it. In 50 years of helping people, and I've had them stay at my house, I've given them vehicles, I've done all these things for them individually. I've never had one person obey the gospel from that. Now, what does that mean? You say, well, you just have bad luck. Could be. But that's not what calls people to the gospel. Now, in an emergency situation, kindness and generosity is absolutely the way to go. 100%. And I think you should do that. I think we should do that. But I don't think that's a method that we can use to win the lost. That's my point. And I think John 6 illustrates that when Jesus fed the 5,000, they just came following him for the food. And when he told them no more food, they all left.
Verse 2 where it says on the first day of the week, lay something aside. It's giving you, this is the day it's going to happen. And you should have thought ahead what you're going to get.
Yeah, and other places he says that we give not sparingly, but not grudgingly. But he also says that we, I forgot the word. What's the word? What's that? No, not cheerfully. I just had a mental blank. I thought of something else for a second. That we make provision for that. Oh, what is the word? I got it right here somewhere. I know our time is gone. Go ahead, Phil. Make the point.
Deb and I were first married. We lived in Omaha, Nebraska. And when it was time to take the collection, it took an abnormally long time. The issue would go up and down the aisle, and people would make change.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, my great uncle, he used to always put a 20 in and get 10 back or something. And in a church I preached at with a whole bunch of college students, the one old lady had been there a year, she says, well, when the college students are in town, the contribution goes down because they all take $1 out as it goes by. Which is okay.
Really were planning ahead. If they had to
See what this says? Let each one give as he purposes in his heart. So there's the intention ahead of time to do this, so that you're going to have a plan. Now our time is gone, but we just touched the hem of the garment. So I am all for generosity, but a lot of people are willing to be generous with somebody else's money, but they're not willing to be generous with their own money. And that's there's the rub right there. There's the rub. It's easy to say the church should do all this, and it's harder for you to say I should do something. Now, that's the problem for me and everybody else. All right, look, we're going to come back to this next. I won't be here next Sunday, but I'll be back the week after that, and we'll talk more.